were worth more than my truck. That is what this is about, not the ones you find, the ones you walk by. I'm going to give you 5 of them. 5 pans that sit on folding tables every single weekend in this country, priced at $5 and $10, and almost everybody walks by, because all 5 of them look like exactly what a person expects worthless iron to look like. They look wrong. That is the whole point. That is why they are still there at 2 in the afternoon. Let me start with the one that cost me the most. Oh, 1. The one that is black and flaking and looks burned up.
There is a pan I see at every market, on every table, and I have never once seen a person pick it up.
It is the one that is covered in something black and rough and crusty. Not rust, crust. It has lumps on it. The bottom looks like tar. It has been sitting in somebody's garage for 30 years with grease on it, and that grease has cooked itself into a hard black shell. Everybody thinks that pan is ruined. It is the opposite. That crust is the best news at the whole market. Here's why. That black shell is old polymerized grease, and it does one thing very well. It keeps air off the metal. Under a shell like that, the iron does not rust. It just sits there. So when a pan looks burned up on the outside, the cooking surface underneath is very often perfect, unpitted, smooth as glass. And here's the part that matters to you at the table. You cannot read the bottom of that pan. Neither can the man selling it. The maker's mark is buried under a 1/4 inch of black crust, so nobody knows what it is, and it gets priced like junk. I bought a pan in that condition for $6, back in the spring out of a milk crate under a table. Took it home, stripped it, and there was a raised name on the bottom. I will not say out loud because I do not want 40 of you racing me to the same table. The pan you want is not the pretty one. It is the one nobody can identify. And I will tell you how to strip it later without ruining it, because there is a wrong way to do that, and it will cost you everything the pan was worth. TWO.
The one with the rough, pebbled bottom. Pick a pan up and turn it over. Run your thumb across the outside of the bottom.
Most people are looking for a name. I am not. I am reading the texture first, because the texture tells me the century before the name tells me anything. If that bottom feels rough, like fine sandpaper or like the surface of a cinder block, everybody at that market reads it as damage, as rust, as a pan that has been out in the weather. It usually is not damage. That is the sand. Cast iron gets made by pouring molten metal into a mold packed out of sand. The sand leaves its own grain on the metal, and on the outside of old pans, on the bottom and up the sides, that grain is still there because nobody bothered to grind it off. That is the birthmark of a sand casting. Now, plenty of new iron is sand cast too, so rough alone does not make a pan old. But you pair rough outside with smooth inside, and that pairing is old. Because the old foundries machined the cooking surface after they poured it. They put it on a lathe and cut it until it was slick. Then they left the outside exactly as the sand made it. Rough outside, glass inside. That is a pan somebody finished by hand. New iron is the reverse, pebbled on the inside and often smoother on the outside than you would expect. That is the tell, and it is free, and you can do it in 2 seconds with your thumb while the man is talking to somebody else. DHRE, the one with a scar, across the bottom that looks like a crack.
This is the one that walks out the door for $4, and I want to stop you right there. No. Turn the pan over.
Look straight across the middle of the bottom. If you see a raised, rough line running from one side to the other, a ridge, like a seam, somebody forgot to file off, sometimes with a little bump in the middle of it, put your hand on that pan and do not put it down. Nearly everybody at a flea market reads that line as a crack, or a repair, or a casting flaw. I have watched people set a pan back down because of it. I have watched a dealer apologize for it. That is a gate mark. That mark is where the molten iron ran into the mold. On the oldest pans, the foundry poured through the bottom, and when they broke the piece out of the sand, the little stub of hardened metal at the gate got knocked off and left that scar. Around the 1890s, the industry moved to pouring from the side, and the mark went away. So a gate mark on the bottom of a skillet dates that pan to before about 1890, and it does it without a single letter of writing on it. That is the piece of this whole video I would keep if you made me throw the rest away. Most gate marked pans are completely unmarked. No name, no number, nothing. which is exactly why they get priced like scrap, and exactly why they are the oldest thing on the table. FOUR.
The one with a ridge around the outside of the bottom. This one is quieter, and it is the one I use to sort the maybes.
Look at the bottom edge, right where the bottom meets the sidewall. Some pans have a raised circle running all the way around, standing a little proud of the surface, like a rail. Sometimes it is a full circle, sometimes it is broken with a gap. That is a heat ring. It was there for a working reason. Kitchens ran wood cook stoves with round removable lids, and that ring let the pan sit down level and steady in the eye of the stove instead of rocking on the rim. When houses went to flat electric and gas ranges, the ring stopped doing anything, and the foundries quit putting it on. That happened, roughly, in the years around and after the Second World War. So, a heat ring generally means a pan poured before about 1940. And it lands on the same pans everybody skips because a heat ring makes a pan sit funny on a modern countertop and people read it as a defect. Rough outside, smooth inside, scar across the middle, ring around the edge.
You now know more standing at that table than the person selling it to you, and you have not asked a single question.
FIV, the one that is not shaped right. The last one is not about the metal at all. It is about the shape, and this is where the money hides. Everybody at a flea market is hunting the same thing, a round skillet, 8 or 10 or 12 inches, the shape they already have at home.
So the round pans get picked over by 9 in the morning.
The odd shapes sit there all day.
An oval pan.
A pan with a lid that has bumps or spikes on the underside. A heavy iron pot with 3 little legs cast into the bottom. A flat rectangle with rows of little pockets in it. A shallow pan with wedges divided out like a pie. A tall, narrow pot with a wire bell handle. Nobody knows what any of those are for anymore, and that is the point. When a thing loses its job, it stops being made, and the ones left are the ones that survived. Meanwhile, the round skillet got made by the millions for 140 years straight. Scarcity is not about age. It is about how many were made and how many got kept. I will tell you the one that hurts. I stood over a deep round pan with a dome lid, and the lid had little drip points cast all over the underside, and I thought, that is odd, and I put it down. $9. A woman behind me picked it up before I got 10 feet. That was a chicken fryer with its self-basting lid, and the lid is the whole thing. The lids get separated from the pans and lost, generation after generation. The pan alone is a nice pan. The pan with its matching lid is a different conversation entirely. $9. I still think about it in the truck. Now, the part that keeps you from ruining it. You are going to bring one of these home.
And in the next 2 days, you are going to want to make it look new, and that is exactly where people destroy the money.
Do not take a grinder to it. Do not take it to a sandblaster. Do not put it in the self-cleaning cycle of your oven. The grinder and the sandblaster take off the maker's mark, and the mark is most of the value. And they eat the machined cooking surface, the smooth one that took a lathe to make, and you cannot put that back. The oven cycle is worse in a way that is invisible. Those cycles run up around 900 degrees, and iron that old was poured in a sand mold with no even heating and no controlled cooling. Running an antique pan to 900 degrees and back is how you find the flaw that was always in it. Sometimes it comes out warped and rocks on the counter forever after. Sometimes it comes out cracked. You do not need any of that. Iron gives up crust and rust slowly and gently if you let it, and every method that is gentle is also cheap. Look up how the collectors do it before you touch it. The people who buy and sell these have a way, and it takes patience instead of force. The rule is simple. You can always take more off tomorrow. You cannot put metal back. What any of it is worth. I am not going to hand you a dollar figure on any of this, and I want to tell you why. Because it is not me being cagey. Prices move. What a piece brought at auction in the spring is not what it brings in the fall, and the number I say out loud today is wrong by the time you are standing at the table. What you do instead, look up what pans like yours have actually SOLD for, not what somebody is asking.
Completed sales only. Asking is a wish. Sold is a fact. And I will tell you the truth the same as I told you last time.
9 out of 10 pieces on those tables are worth $30 or $40. That is good iron, and you should buy it and cook on it and be happy. but the 10th one is not. And the 10th one is the one everybody walks past, because the 10th one looks the worst. I have got a pan hanging on a nail in my barn that a man once called too rusty to bother with. Saturday morning, Berea, first light. Get there early. Look at the ugly ones first. Tell me in the comments what you have found and what state you are in, because the tables are different everywhere, and I want to know what is still out there. I read every one of them,